Have you ever wondered if Ollie might be evil? The release of Poppy Playtime Chapter 3 has stirred up a frenzy of theories and speculation among fans of the spooky yet gripping game series. One of the most fascinating questions buzzing around is whether Ollie, the fresh character introduced in this chapter, might finally be the anticipated prototype. Ollie is a mysterious figure, mainly because we never physically meet the young boy, despite how much he helps us throughout Chapter 3. So, who exactly is he? Does Ollie have a bigger role to play as the series goes on? So I've been digging deep into this, and this is what I found. In Chapter 3, Ollie communicates with you through the phone you answer at the start of deep sleep. With the way Chapter 3 concludes, it seems likely that Ollie might aid you against another toy, potentially the one who attacked Kissy Missy. Those screams still give us chills. Given our fondness for the fluffy pink giant, we're hopeful for a rescue mission to save her from Experiment 1006 and Poppy Playtime's Boxy Boo. Yes, we believe it's Boxy's time to shine in the next chapter, especially after his standout performance in the Hour of Joy videotape. Ollie emerges as one of the enigmatic figures in Chapter 3. All we have is his name and a voice that resembles that of a child. Many are speculating that Ollie might actually be Prototype, especially after the videotape revealed its ability to mimic voices. While this theory seems plausible, it would be quite underwhelming, especially since similar plot twists have been seen in the Five Nights at Freddy's series. However, Ollie's deep understanding of play care suggests that he could offer valuable assistance in rescuing Kissy or, at the very least, confronting the toy responsible for harming her. Poppy is devastated at the idea of losing her friend, and so are we. Ollie had better come up with a solid plan. When Prototype communicates with the scientist, it appears to be piecing together phrases it has heard from others, creating somewhat disjointed sentences. Unless it has spent considerable time refining this skill, I'm skeptical about how convincing Prototype can be. Moreover, much of Ollie's advice doesn't seem aligned with Prototype's objectives. Unless Prototype intended for Catnap's demise, which would be redundant since Catnap would have killed the protagonist without Ollie's intervention. Poppy appears to have a sense of familiarity with Ollie. She doesn't strike me as naive, so she wouldn't easily trust someone unless they prove themselves trustworthy or capable. If she truly understands Prototype's abilities as she claims to, she would be aware that Prototype can mimic voices and might be cautious of Ollie. A disembodied voice seemingly too eager to help. From the way she spoke about him, it seemed like she has a personal connection with Ollie and might even know him in person. So, I know my theory might sound a bit silly, but hear me out. I think Ollie is the phone. In this world, all the toys seem to come to life, right? Well, that phone isn't your typical phone, it's a toy phone. My idea came partly from Toy Story 3, which has a similar character. You might be wondering, how can a phone send keys and battery packs through the transport tubes? Well, that's where my theory starts to sound a bit ridiculous. Unless being a phone somehow lets Ollie connect with other electronics, I'm not exactly sure how that would work. I also found it curious when Ollie mentioned no lost body parts. It got me thinking, if the Prototype needs body parts because its own body isn't complete, hence why we only see its arm, maybe it sees potential in you because you've made it far and solved many puzzles. Perhaps the Prototype plans to use your body and is leading you towards it so it can escape. That's why it doesn't want you to lose any body parts because it needs them. I don't think Poppy or Kissy are involved in this, and they might be manipulated just like you are. What if Ollie is actually the security system? Hear me out. Ollie could serve as the security system because he communicates solely through phone calls. The reason Ollie can't communicate with us in certain areas might be because he shouldn't be able to interact with the other toys, so he gets cut off. Additionally, Ollie mentions that Catnap is the only smiling critter left. Yet, when we explore Playcare, we find Dog Day in an area with no power. Also, Ollie seems limited in what he can say, as he mentions no ouchies or lost body parts, instead of using other words that might frighten children. In Chapter 3, Ollie's primary color is green. Interestingly, in Chapter 1, the first VHS tape you find is also green, and it discusses the security system. Moreover, at the beginning of Chapter 3, Ollie knew to call that specific phone in the initial location likely because he can monitor through the security cameras. Towards the end of Chapter 3, Ollie's communication is interrupted because Catnap is nearby, preventing him from speaking through the phone. As a result, Ollie communicates through the computer, warning, "Be alert, Catnap is near." There was indeed a real Ollie whom Poppy knew. This explains why she recognizes Ollie and assures us that he's safe, unaware that he's actually not, because she doesn't realize it's a fake Ollie. However, the Ollie who's assisting us is likely the prototype. It mimicked Ollie's voice and eliminated him without Poppy noticing. If you're curious about how Prototype can mimic voices, watch the tape of Log 24459. It utilizes Ollie's voice to communicate with us as Ollie. It's important to remember that Prototype can only mimic voices, not create them. Therefore, there must be a source for that voice, which is the real Ollie. So, it's probable that a real Ollie existed, known to Poppy, but she's unaware of his demise. This explains why Poppy doesn't suspect Ollie, as the voice is identical to the real Ollie's. Prototype purposefully mimicked Ollie's voice to avoid suspicion from Poppy. But why is Ollie helping us? It's simple. Prototype intends to lure us into a trap, hoping we'll unwittingly fall into it. By using us, Prototype aims to achieve its goal, which remains unknown. Moreover, I believe Prototype will acquire the abilities of the monsters it collected. For instance, it might gain Huggy's speed in small spaces, or his sharp teeth, Mommy's flexibility and agility, or her elongated legs, and lastly, Catnap's gas. It got me thinking, why is Ollie insisting we move the gas from right to left? What's the purpose? All he says is, we need to make that red smoke go left instead. That's how we can get to him. But we have our showdown with Catnap before changing the direction of the smoke, so why bother diverting it afterward? It seems deliberate. Perhaps Ollie has been manipulating us to do so and has other plans for the red smoke. The strange part about Ollie possibly being the prototype is that his actions don't make much sense. He's familiar with Poppy and works with Kissy Missy and the player to defeat the prototype. He played a crucial role in defeating Miss Delight and Catnap, even though they could have been useful allies for him. Plus, if the prototype wanted to eliminate Catnap, it could have done so directly without complicating matters. It's hard to find a logical reason for everything that happened if Ollie is indeed the prototype. What if Ollie isn't just the phone, but part of the factory systems? The toy phone seems to be just a tool he's using to communicate. His extensive knowledge of Playcare's layout, especially areas like the power room and gas production zone, makes more sense if he's somehow linked to them. He can manipulate the transport tubes, which suggests he has control over them. Plus, there are security cameras around the factory that could help him track our movements. Ollie's speech has a quirky cadence, similar to characters in kids' cartoons like Dora the Explorer. If he's a computer program, his unusual way of speaking could be explained by that. I think we've been deceived by the game. Remember that VHS tape where the prototype mimics the scientist's voice? That could be what's happening with Ollie. Maybe the prototype trapped or saved a child to mimic its voice, or it's mimicking voices it's learned over time. Ollie isn't a real child or toy, it's the prototype pretending to be a child and manipulating us and Poppy. Here's another theory. Since Ollie has control over us and Poppy, maybe it planned to lead Poppy to reactivate the elevator by attacking Kissy Missy. Since Kissy Missy is similar to Huggy Wuggy but in a different color, the prototype doesn't need her. If it found Huggy Wuggy's body, it could have attacked Kissy Missy just to lure us and Poppy back up, either to attack us or to buy time to finalize its plan. It would totally make sense if Ollie turned out to be the prototype. Ollie's instructions always lead us into dangerous situations like in Home Sweet Home, the school, and the playhouse. He guides us step by step into places filled with danger. And when we manage to survive all those dangers, the prototype sends its top guy, Catnap, after us. Suddenly, we're face to face with him. It's strange that Ollie never mentioned anything about escaping, despite Poppy referring to him as an ally. You'd think Poppy would know who Ollie really is, especially since she trusts his guidance so much. But she never talks about Ollie as if he's a real person. She always talks about his guidance being helpful, but maybe that's just what the prototype wants. It's like the prototype is trying to achieve multiple goals at once, which supports the idea that Ollie is actually the prototype in disguise. So what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.